Hey everybody, it's Mr. Haas here, and I am so excited to be doing this experiment with you today. So in class this week, we've been looking at objects that might sink or might float. And what I want you to take a look at is how you can do this at your own home to test some of your theories and to get better at knowing and predicting whether or not something will sink or float. So I just got a nice clear bowl here so you can see, but the bowl at home can be clear or it could be a color, so you don't have to necessarily see through it, okay? So I have a bowl of water, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a bunch of objects that I find around my house, and I'm gonna predict whether or not they are going to sink or float. So I'm gonna show you now how to do that, and I'm gonna help guide you a little bit so that your predictions can be a little bit better and more accurate. And then when I'm done with this video, you can go ahead and try this at home, okay? So let's see what I got here. Let's start with, all right, I'm gonna start with this fork, okay? Now this fork is made of metal. And usually something that is made of metal or really heavy has a hard time floating, unless it's shaped a certain way like a boat. But usually if we think something is gonna sink, which means it goes under the surface of the water and goes all the way to the bottom, that's what sinking is. If we think of something that sinks, we usually think of something that's heavy, and this fork is pretty heavy. So let's see if I put this in, if it stays on the surface or it goes to the bottom. And you can see that it goes right to the bottom. So this definitely sank. All right, now I'm gonna take an ice cube here, okay? Hopefully you have some ice cubes at home. Now, an ice cube kind of feels heavy, but I also know that it's made of water. So I think that, maybe it is, well, I think maybe it will float. So let's see, I put it in there, goes down a little bit, and there it is. And I have a second one that I'll put in there too. So, two different size ice cubes, but both of them do float because they are a little lighter, okay? They're not really light, but they are lighter than the fork is. All right, next, I'm gonna take a quarter here. A coin, a quarter. Now a quarter is made out of metal, just like the fork, so I'm guessing that it too will probably, what do you think? If you said sink, then I agree with you. So let's take a look. We put it on there and goes to the bottom. So again, it sinks because it goes to the bottom. Anything that floats is gonna sit on the surface or just slightly below. All right, let's see. Next, I'm gonna take this cotton that I have. Now, cotton is really light, so I think that this cotton is gonna sit on the surface of the water and float. Do you agree with me? All right, well, let's find out. And it does. Okay, so great job. Next, I have a cap here. Just a plastic cap, which feels pretty light. So I think that this is going to float. And it does. It floats, and you can see how it sits right on the surface there. It goes a little bit under, but it doesn't go to the bottom. So that object floats. Now we got this one. This one feels like it's made out of metal, but it might also have plastic on it. I'm not sure. This is a binder clip. So I think, I don't know, it doesn't feel as heavy as the other stuff. So I think it's gonna float. It did not. It sank to the bottom. So I was wrong, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong when we're experimenting to be wrong. So that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's see. I have one more object here. I have a paper clip. Now again, this paper clip is made of metal, but it's a lot lighter. So I think that it's going to float as well. So if I put it, and I was wrong again. And again, that's okay. So with this activity, sink or float, I want you taking just some objects. Don't do anything expensive. Don't go drop in phones and stuff just to see if they'll float or sink. We don't want to do anything like that. Make sure you ask your parents first, but find some objects around your house that are not electronic, that can get wet, that you can then experiment with whether they sink or float, and see if you can figure out how some things might sink and some things might float. Now we know, again, like we said earlier, that the heavier objects often sink, and then objects made of wood or cotton or plastic, they often float, but that is not always the case. So have some fun. We're gonna do something similar to this in class, so this will be, if you do this first, it'll be a great start for you. If you do it afterwards, then it'll be a great review. So I hope you have fun with it. Be careful, make sure you ask your parents' permission, and have a great time.